all done here, we've all got to run outside and enjoy this beautiful weather while we have it here. It'll be changing after this week. Looked at the calendar this morning. Can you believe it? 28 days until Election Day. It is here, and this season has been an election season unlike any other, of course, because of the pandemic. So from safety at the polls to making sure your vote actually counts, there are a lot of questions that we've seen over the last several days, weeks, months. So we brought in the experts that you see here to get the answers to those questions. And here they are. If you guys will just wave for me when you hear your name. Chicago Board of Election. Oh, hey, everybody. Yeah, we can do that first. Hello. How's it going?
Hey, everybody.
It's good to see you guys. Chicago Board of Election Chairwoman Maricel Hernandez is with us. Hello, Maricel. State Board of Election spokesman Matt Dietrich. Cook County Clerk Karen Yarbrough is here. Lake County Clerk Robin O'Connor. McHenry County Clerk and Recorder Joe Theriault.
Good morning.
And League of Women Voters of Illinois Vice President Jan Dorner is with us as well. Jan, it's good to see you. So we'll go around. I want to hear from you guys and want to hear your thoughts. The biggest question that you've gotten so far this election season and the answer to it, or what you want across the city, across your county, across the state to know in this election cycle. And Jan, since I see you top left on my screen, I'll start with you from the League of Women Voters. What do you think?
So most of the questions are about vote by mail. And I'm just going to bring up just one of those little things that if one read their instructions, one would know, but let's not vote with a Sharpie. The Sharpie bleeds through the ballot. So don't use a Sharpie, use a black pen.
Thanks for
wow.
that.
Yeah, very, very. I'm actually writing that down. Do not use a Sharpie. Good to know, Jan. Thank you so much. Matt, all yours. What would you say the biggest question that you've gotten or a point that you want to get across to voters in the state?
Biggest question that I've gotten is, what if I applied for a vote by mail ballot, but I changed my mind and I decided that I want to vote in person either early or on election day? And the answer to that is A, if you applied for a ballot and you have received your ballot, you should take your ballot with you to the early voting location or to the polling place on election day, surrender it to an election judge. You'll be given a ballot and you can vote in person. If you have not received your ballot yet, you go to the early voting center or on election day and tell the election judge, because there'll be a note there that says you were mailed a ballot. Tell them you didn't receive your ballot. You will be asked to sign an affidavit to that effect, and then you will be able to vote in person. That's probably, we've gotten that question actually before, since vote by mail is not anything new. That's one that we hear quite a bit. Very important though, if you got the ballot, take it with you, because if you received your ballot and you show up without it, you're gonna have to cast a provisional ballot, which means your ballot won't get counted until all of the vote by mail ballots have already been processed as of November 17th. Yours is not among them, then your provisional ballot can count.
Wow, what a process. Okay, good to know, Matt, appreciate it. Robin, you're up next.
You're on mute.
Yes, thank you, thank you. I agree with all the questions that have been said, and I know that will be said. I just wanted to interject the premise that we know that vote by mail is definitely out there and it's definitely the topic, but I just want to confirm to everyone that if you choose to vote in person, you are welcome. The early voting and voting on the day of, we are assuring that these voting sites are safe and secure and very welcoming and comfortable to you. So it is your choice to decide how you would like to vote, but all of us agree here, we just want you to vote.
Yes.
We'll dig in a little more on the safety and some of the precautions that are being taken in the polls here in just a little bit. That's Robin O'Connor, Lake County Clerk. I want to go to Joe Theriault, McHenry County Clerk and Recorder. Joe, what have you been hearing? What have you been seeing?
Hi, Terrell. I'm joined by Deborah Nieto, our Chief Deputy.
Hey, Deborah.
Probably the biggest question we received was in response to Jesse White's letter, and there's another one coming in a few days. The wording was such that it led some to believe that they couldn't vote any other way than by mail. And as Robin pointed out, that's absolutely not the case. And there was some confusion, I think, driven by when the data was taken and when that letter was sent, that people had already requested a vote by mail ballot, and the letter had said that they hadn't. So that drove a considerable amount of phone traffic as well.
Got it. Okay. Karen Yarbrough, Cook County Clerk, how are you?
Well, Terrell, and my counterparts are absolutely true. Of course, Matt took mine, what we're hearing mostly, and then it was followed up by Robin and Joe. So we're hearing all of these things, but the thing that I'm hearing about lately has to do with I applied for my ballot and it hasn't come yet. And let me just say that we've got over 450,000 people who have requested ballots, and we're sending them out on a ongoing basis. People want to know, well, how many have been sent out? I don't know, but all I know is I got mine in the mail yesterday, and I filled it out, and I plan to put it in one of our drop boxes. So don't fret; they are in the mail. Just please give us a little time, and you're going to get it in time.
Got it. All right. Marisol Hernandez, Chicago Board of Election Chairwoman. Anything you want to add?
Well, first, a special shout out to my election buddy, Karen Yarbrough, because we've been working so well together. Thank you, Karen. A lot of the questions previously posed are the ones that we're receiving, but I wanted to stress two things that I've been stressing to the voters. One is, if possible, don't wait until election day. You know, November, you don't know how the weather's going to be, you know, what's going to happen, you know, pandemic issues. We're urging the voters to vote by mail. It's safe and secure. But if you would like to vote in person, you can do that as of today. Don't wait. Do it early. The second thing is, when you go to the polls, please plan ahead of time. This ballot is a very long ballot in Chicago and Cook County because we have so many judges up for retention. It is 2 sheets of paper back and forth. So what we're asking voters to do, if you're coming in, plan your vote. You could download a sample of your ballot, check mark everything you want to, everyone you want to vote for, and then bring that sample to the polling place or to your early voting site, and you'll be in and out in a jiffy.
So do a little homework before you go.
Exactly.
Got it. Jean, want to get to you. DuPage County Clerk, nice to see you. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm doing really well, thanks. It's good to have you this afternoon. What's that that one thing, or maybe it's several, but the question that you've gotten the most, the answer to it, or one thing that you want the voters of DuPage County to know?
Well, we've been receiving all of those questions as well in DuPage County, but I want to add one. Will my ballot be counted? And in a word, absolutely. Regardless of what method you choose, voting by mail, early, or election day voting, your ballot will be counted.
Is there a, and we can jump right into questions because that leads to one that I've gotten. Is there a situation or a circumstance where my ballot, specifically a mail-in ballot, will not be counted? And anybody who's willing to speak to it can now. Jan?
If you haven't signed the back of your envelope, it won't be counted immediately. You'll be contacted. If your envelope isn't sealed, it won't be counted. But you'll be contacted. If your signature doesn't match the signature on file, It won't be counted immediately, but you'll be contacted. I'm sure there's more election officials.
So if you drop just the bare ballot into a drop box with no certification envelope or any other sort of identifying marks on it, we have no idea who submitted that ballot, and consequently, we can't vote that ballot.
Got it. Anything that anybody wants to add?
Voters might want to be aware, if you're voting by mail and if you're going to use the secure drop box, be sure you put it in the correct one. And it's not an issue really downstate. I'm in Springfield, but it will be an issue where in Chicagoland, where you have jurisdictions that are very close to each other, and you may not be aware that this is I'm the city of Chicago drop box, but make sure you put it in the right drop box. The law says that the election authorities, if this happens, are supposed to deliver it to the proper office, but voters exercising a little caution can make sure that a mistake like that doesn't happen in the first place.
Can we talk a little bit more about that? So which drop box, how do you know your drop box is the correct drop box?
They are clearly marked. So anybody walking up to two of these drop boxes would see that it says Cook County suburban voters versus the city of Chicago voters. So they are clearly marked. But to Matt's point, if in fact we get something from Chicago, we're absolutely going to turn it over to Chicago, and I'm sure Marcel will tell you that they will do the same.
Exactly.
Is there a delay in the process if you drop into the wrong drop box? If you make a mistake on your mail-in ballot, and then we're talking about provisional ballots, what kind of delay are we talking about after election day and getting that ballot counted?
Well, there's we have a process in place, and I'm sure all the other election jurisdictions have a process in place. So if there's an issue with regards to, as was said, the voter not signing the envelope or the envelope not being sealed, an email will go out immediately to the voter if we have the voter's email address, or if we have their phone number, we'll call them, or we'll send them a letter. So we will be able, before election day, we will be able to address those issues. After election day, if we receive an unsealed ballot envelope, that is not something that can be corrected, because we cannot allow the voter to cast their ballot after election day.
So voters, anybody watching right now can be rest assured that if there's an issue, somebody will be reaching out to them about that issue with their ballot.
Exactly. And I'll give you a perfect example. Right. My husband and I voted by mail. I sent my ballot out, and within 3 business days, I received an email stating that my ballot had been received and was accepted. My husband sent his out and said, and they returned, they notified him that his ballot was received, but not yet accepted because of a signature discrepancy. It didn't quite match. And so he promptly contacted the Board of Elections by email and notified them of his voter registration number, his address, that he did in fact send that ballot, and within 24 hours his ballot was accepted.
Marissa, I want to follow up on that point. That was actually one of the questions that we got from one of our viewers. She says, what if the signature I have on file, and this is apparently the same signature that she's relied on for the last 40 years. What if that signature looks different than my current signature? Will my vote be counted?
And the answer is we'll contact you immediately to let you know there is an issue. We have 3 judges reviewing signatures on each envelope, and these are trained by handwriting experts. So when that happens, we get in contact with the voter. The voter provides enough information to say, yes, that was my ballot. I did send it out, and this is my voter registration information, and they will hear right away.
And I just also wanted to add, when we were talking about handwriting experts, they're trained to look at markers. A lot of individuals feel that they look at the entire signature, but our handwriting, our judges are trained to look at markers. For example, in my name with R, with Robin, I've always done my R with a certain type of a loop. So judges can look at my signature, and actually we do have a bank of history of signatures as well. And pretty much those markers will jump out. So voters need to be assured that we look for markers in your signature, and they usually are very significant.
Excellent. I want to talk about early voting. It's already going on now. In many cases, we have seen long lines. There's a lot of interest this election season in it. If somebody's watching right now that is looking for their early voting site, where they can go and when they can vote early, where can they find that information? And I know it's a little different based on where you are, but Matt, I'll go ahead and start.
Well, I know on the State Board of Elections website, which is elections.il.gov, right there on the landing page, you'll see a tab that says information for voters. And if you hover over that tab, you'll get a menu item that is all early voting locations throughout the state. Click on that and you go to your, whatever your jurisdiction is, your county or city board of election, and it'll show you the locations and specific hours for all of the early voting locations in your jurisdiction.
Robin, anything that you, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I was going to say the same with Cook County. We have not started yet. We start on October 19th, and you'll be able, if you go to cookcountyclerk.com, you can go to our website and see on a map exactly where these early voting locations are. Additionally, we're getting ready to roll out Union Station. We're really excited about this because a lot of our voters in suburban Cook County come from the suburbs, and they come through Union Station. So Union Station is going to be an early voting site, and it's also going to be a place where people can, we will have a drop box there for people who want to just drop off their ballots.
Robin, what do you think? Lake County, what's happening, what's going on, and what do voters there need to know? Early voting.
For early voting, we also are excited to open up a new site. We're opening up the Lake County Fairgrounds, and that's a site that we have never had, and we're using one also for early voting and as a universal site on election day. So again, I believe there's going to be all these opportunities for individuals to go ahead and vote.
Joe, Deborah, out in McHenry County, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, our first day of early voting, our first couple days were unlike anything we'd seen in anybody's memory. We had nearly 1,000 people on those first 2 days, and for a county our size, that's unheard of. So people are aware, but if they're not, they can come to McHenryCountyClerk.com. That's our website, and there's a link near the top of the page for early voting locations, sample ballots, and that sort of thing.
Same kind of deal in DuPage County, Jean?
Yes, we've been experiencing historic turnout for our early voting at the fairgrounds. By the end of today, I expect that number to be close to 8,000. And like the other county clerks, our polling sites are posted on our website. We will have an additional 18 early voting sites open on October the 19th.
My frame of reference, just because our studios and our station is downtown in the Loop, we've got the super site right down the street. And from the people that I've spoken to who have gone through it, they said that the process was easy. It was different, but it was easy, even though the line last week was stretched around the block. What are some of the safety precautions? What are things that are different for somebody that plans to go to the polls this year? What will they notice? How will that experience be different this year in this pandemic?
Well, we have guidance from the CDC and the Illinois Department of Public Health for voting locations, which is very good. But I think voters can expect to see social distancing. We will provide masks, gloves, sanitizing gel. We will have cleaning supplies to clean all the equipment between use. So I think we're very well prepared to deal with the pandemic, and I want voters who want to come in to feel safe about coming in.
Yeah, I'd like to add that the primary election really gave us pause for what we needed to do for this election. So we've looked at what didn't happen in the primary, and we're prepared. That's what I want to leave voters with. We are prepared for the November election.
I see Robin? I see you nodding your head. Matt, I see you nodding your head too. Anything you want to add to that, Robin?
The one thing that I want to remind voters, if they're voting in person, to have patience, because everything may take a little bit longer because the lines are going to be stretched out. And so as you enter an in-person situation, sometimes the line may be longer. Just remember, go in with the good spirit that you are voting and everyone else is feeling the same way, and be patient.
Yeah, I'd like to add also, Terrell, because I've gotten this question a number of times, and I'm sure my counterparts have as well. We're going to, request that people come into polling places with masks on. We already know that some people are not going to want to do that, and we're prepared for that as well. We actually plan to have a voting booth that will be way away from other people. They can vote. Obviously, we're going to clean up that machine and everything that they've touched and what have you. We just hope people will, consider that this is not a joke. This is a deadly virus that has killed over 200,000 people. And we want, in a word, our folks to be safe.
I'd like to caution everyone to check their polling sites. This election is a holiday for schools. So there are some polling places that have been moved back into schools, perhaps because of the gyms will be bigger than a room in a church. So the voter might not be at their normal polling place. So you can check our website, illinoisvoterguide.org, or what Matt was talking about, the State Board of Elections website as well.
Anything that anybody wanted to add there? I thought I saw a hand go up for a quick sec.
Well,
okay.
I was
going
to remark on something that was discussed a minute ago and say that I'm very pleased to see that voters are practicing social distancing and they're wearing their face masks on their own without being told.
Yeah, I've been seeing the same thing. Even the people that have been in line for some of the early voting sites that we've seen here, it's the same thing, which has been encouraging. Jan, I'm going to circle back here with you in just a second. First, I want to ask you guys all this. The process of mail-in ballots and voting by mail, is that process at all fraudulent? Can there be fraud in that process? And that's a question, Matt, that I'm sure you can speak on a state level, but also if anybody wants to chime in and answer that. It's been a concern this election cycle.
Well, I can speak in general. We, at the state board, obviously, we do not conduct the elections. We don't handle any of the ballots. But the thing that I have been telling a lot of the media that contacts me is that we have in Illinois, your signature is your proof of identity at the polling place. And that is the standard that's used first in applying for a vote by mail ballot. And then also when you receive that ballot, when you must sign it, that signature has to match. That is the same as what you would go through in an in-person voting situation. I've had to counter an awful lot of social media posts from voters who, when the applications went out, there may have been applications may have come to a household where the particular voter no longer lived in that household. And
Matt, you're breaking up on us a little bit.
Says, I'm just going to send this in, get myself.
I think that we may have gotten a pause here on Matt. So we'll try to get his signal back. Anything else that anybody
Am I
wants
back yet? Oh,
There we go. We got you back.
Yep.
And I think we lost you again. Okay. Anybody else want to chime in quickly on that?
Well, I'd like to chime in because this is part of a misinformation campaign that's going on, and we've not seen, and everything that I've read, the number of fraudulent ballots. The fact of the matter is, in the state of Illinois, we didn't send ballots out. We sent applications out for people to complete and send back to request a ballot. And then when I think about the other, I think there's 5 states that actually send a ballot to everybody. Now, certainly they are smaller than the state of Illinois, but there's nothing to suggest, aside from the misinformation that's on social media, that there's this fraudulent thing that's going on with the ballots. It's just not true.
So voters should not be concerned about voting by mail.
Absolutely not.
Not an issue.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Exactly. We have taken procedures and protocols and put them in place to protect the voters and to protect the integrity of the vote. We feel very strongly, and as all our fellow election jurisdictions do, that, we are conducting a transparent, fair, and secure election.
Amen to that.
Mm-hmm. And to Karen's point, it's not just disinformation about voting by mail. There's sort of 2 overarching themes that I'm seeing, and folks, agree if you agree. But one is you can't vote by mail because the post office is broken, and then the other is you can't vote in person because of COVID. So the upshot of it all is don't vote. And so this is not coming from official sources. A good deal of this is coming from overseas actors that wish to cause disharmony among people in our country. So be thoughtful, be smart about what you're sharing on social media, and as somebody mentioned, plan your voting and vote early.
I just wanted to add also, so everyone realizes our equipment that we use in our offices it's very sophisticated equipment. So people need to understand that what we are doing from this end, because a lot of people have never been in our office, they don't really understand the intensity and the high level of machines that we use. We are very sophisticated here.
Yes.
So we need to pass that on, because I understand people are just looking at it from a different perspective.
And the accountability is such that it would require a conspiracy of a great number of people willing to risk federal prison time in order to somehow put their thumb on the scale in some way. And even if it's possible, I think it would be improbable that you'll find that number of people willing to cooperate in that way with that at risk.
Got it. So as you guys mentioned, we got the pandemic. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and the way that voters are voting may be different this election cycle for them. All of that together can create an overwhelming situation for some people. So we'll end with this. Final thoughts on voters feeling overwhelmed. What would be your message to them? And Jan, I want to start with you first. For somebody who is eligible to vote and hasn't yet, how can they, and is there still time?
Sure. You can still register to vote. You can register to vote online if you have a state ID or a driver's license. And you can register at a polling place, either early voting or election day. And you've heard everybody talk about how safe and secure they're all working toward this for this election. And we at the League of Women Voters of Illinois support all of our election officials and believe that they are working toward making this the safest and securest election that's ever been had.
Robin, you're up next.
Yes, the League of Women's Voters is such a noble organization. We just want to let our voters know, and all the voters in Illinois, is that if you have a question or if you have a concern, reach out to us. We want your questions, we want concerns. At Lake County, we have our own phone number, 847-377-VOTE, VOTE, and we welcome people if they have doubts. We welcome that because we want to give them the truth and guide them along the way. So reach out and help. And I guess my comment really is just remember, and I always say this, it is your voice, your choice, and your vote. And honor it and vote.
Got it, Robin. Appreciate it. Joe, you're up next. Final thoughts.
So if you're overwhelmed, the best remedy for that is to act early, whether you're doing it by mail or voting in person. I'll tell you, if you're voting by mail and you suffer one of those inadequacies we talked about earlier, not signing your ballot, that gives us plenty of time to remedy that. If you're wanting to vote in person, there's hardly ever any lines at early voting locations, and there's almost certainly going to be lines on election day if more people don't vote early. So vote early in person or whether by mail and avoid that overwhelming sensation and still get your patriotic little zip. So vote early.
Yeah, do a little bit of homework before you're going out.
Yes,
Cook County
absolutely.
Clerk Karen Yarbrough, your final thoughts.
We understand that people are, somewhat apprehensive on a number of different levels. But please don't let it stop you from exercising your right to vote. Democracy, in my view, is on the ballot. And if we really treasure this democracy that we have, we should vote. Now, if you live in suburban Cook County, look to us as the trusted source and contact us at cookcountyclerk.com. All things election is right there at your fingertips.
Gonna swing on down right on that same note. Chicago Board of Election Chairwoman Marisol Hernandez, what do you think?
I'll go back to my plan your vote theme because this is not because of COVID and this is not your normal election. I want people to realize that they may very well be lines outside of a polling place or an early voting site. And you have to take into account the weather and the time you have available. So my suggestion is you plan when you're going to vote. Come out early. This weekend, our super site will be open from 9 to 5. And in addition, download that sample ballot so you're in and out.
All righty, Marisol. Jean from DuPage County, the DuPage County Clerk, what do you think?
Well, try to turn off the noise and remember that you can vote 3 ways. You can vote by mail, early, or election day. And if you tend to vote by mail, apply now on our website. And when your ballot arrives, please return it right away. Regardless of how you vote, your ballot will be counted.
Jean, thanks. And Mr. Dietrich, State Board of Elections spokesman.
Just one thing, we know that we have more than 2 million voters who have applied for vote by mail ballots. So we know we're going to have a record number of votes by mail. We hope that people get those back in quickly so that our election authorities can process them as they come in, and we'll have a good picture on election night of what that vote total is. However, voters need to be aware that come election night, we have 2 weeks for any properly postmarked vote by mail ballots to arrive and be counted. You could be seeing on election night, those unofficial numbers may be considerably lower than what the final number is going to be on November 17th. So please, voters, just keep that in mind, that what you see on election night is going to change by whatever number of outstanding ballots we have out there. And I'm going to do my best to send out a lot of press releases during that time, let people know exactly how many outstanding mail ballots there are. This will be a different kind of election. So
how long do we think that that process will take, Matt? And when do you think we might have an answer, at least for the state, on election day? I know that's a tough question.
Well, it is tough because it really depends on voter behavior. If those people who are voting by mail, if they get those ballots in before election day, our local election authorities can process them. They can validate the signatures, run them through the tabulator. The only thing they can't do is total any individual votes. So if let's say we have 2 million votes cast by mail, if 1.5 million of those have already been processed prior to election day, then at 7 p.m. on November 3rd, the election authorities basically flip a switch, just like with the early votes, and we have those totals. And then we know that potentially there are another 500,000 vote by mail ballots that could arrive in those days afterwards.
Okay. I see.
That's what we, that's the only thing we can do is hope that people get them done early.
Got it.
The one thing I just want to stress is that we're counting ballots the exact same way we've counted them for years. State law has required election authorities to count mail-in ballots that are postmarked by November 3rd and received by November 17th. And then to certify the results of the election by the following Tuesday, November 24th. We're following that same procedure. The only difference here is we're counting a lot more vote by mail ballots, but there's nothing that's changed.
Got it. One last swing around. Is there anything else that anyone wants to say before we wrap up this afternoon?
Vote.
Vote early.
In one word, right? Plan. And according to Jan, don't use a Sharpie.
Right.
By the way, Jan, what would you suggest? Blue, black ink, pencil? What do you go with?
Black pen.
Black pen.
It could be a blue or black. I would suggest a ballpoint pen. And you know what? If you're, and it'll be perfectly fine. On election day, bring your own pen.
Right.
Yeah, why not?
That's what we
There you
call
go.
BYOP.
Yes,
BYOP.
I love that.
BYOP.
We're gonna have to start saying that. I love that, guys. Thank you so much for all of your time. To everybody watching right now, if you have any more questions, these are the experts to ask to get the answers that you need for this election season 2020. Certainly unlike anything that we have seen before. To all of you, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. On behalf of myself and ABC7, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terrell.
Thanks.
You guys take care. Have a good one.
Okay. You too.
All righty, guys, take care.
Bye-bye.